Come around, listen in and join the fun. Learning as we go, new words and stories. Adventures begun. Let's open up the pages. Don't have far to look. It's all in a book. Ruthy's Reading Room. Ruthy's Reading Room. Ruthy's Reading Room. Ruthy's Reading Room.
Why, hello, little readers. Welcome back to Ruthy's Reading Room. I'm Ruthy, and this is my buddy Ja, and we're going to share a story today. And for today, it's going to be part 2 of the story we started last time. Do you remember what it was called? Do you remember what it was about? I'll give you a hint. Here it is. I am not being lazy. I just don't understand, by Gina Paul. Right? Yes. So we started the story by meeting Georgette. And where did she move to? That's right, New York City. And where did she move from? That's right, good job, Haiti. So she was in a classroom. Do you remember how that was going? Yeah, I know. Ja, you're right. It wasn't going very well. She didn't understand the language, and the other students didn't understand her, and it didn't seem like anyone was really able to help her to make any connections, so she felt alone. All right, so I'm glad you guys came back to hear what happens with Georgette. But before we get too far, run and get your Stuffy and Blanky and your same reading buddy to finish off the story, okay? Run and come back now. All right, everyone's coming back, and I'm going to check to make sure we're ready. All right, Ja. Now you sit back. Last time he was falling off, wasn't he? You stay there. Let's put our listening ears on and put our hands in our lap. Okay? And we'll use the red magnifying glass. Okay, hello, David. Hi, Ronan. Oh, our regulars. Hi, Elizabeth. Hello, everybody. Sitting quietly. Oh, you're going to lay down? That works too. Hi, Mr. Stuffy. Okay. We are ready to continue our story. We're going to pick it up at chapter 4. Okay? On the third day, I waited until after the class separated into small groups and approached Mrs. Levi in hopes that she would help me figure out the correct sentence. As I walked up to her desk, everyone stopped working and stared at me because I had never approached the teacher before. I was frightened but determined. Mrs. Levi seemed surprised to see me, but had a small, inviting smile on her face, which made me feel a little more comfortable about approaching her. I sit to you? I said to her as I pointed to the group of girls. At first, she seemed confused. She looked at the girls I was pointing to and then looked back at me with a frown on her face. Then she asked me, "You want to join them?" While pointing at the group, I repeated the phrase, "You want to join them?" 3 times in a whisper, just low enough for me to hear. I ran back to the girls and, with a huge smile on my face, loudly asked them, "You want to join them?" The whole class started laughing. I looked around, wondering why they were laughing. Oh, Georgette, my heart just goes out to her. She's doing her very best to try and communicate. I said the phrase just like the teacher did. I knew that my pronunciation was not perfect, but I thought that it was easily understood. Sighing, with my shoulders sagging in defeat, I went back to my seat, embarrassed and upset. I folded my arms across my chest and hung my head. My face felt hot with embarrassment. After the teacher had quieted the class down, she came and squatted down in front of me. She asked me, "You want to learn how to say, 'Can I join you,' right?" I did not look at her or responded because I only understood some of her words. She stood up and motioned with her hand for me to follow her. I really did not want to, but with a sigh, I stood up and followed her. She led me in front of the same group of girls. I refused to look at any of them. I had my head down and my hands hanging loosely at my sides, staring at my shoes. Slowly, Mrs. Levi said, "Can I join you?" I did not know what she expected from me, therefore I ignored her. She repeated the phrase again and said, "Now you," pointing at me. I looked at her and shook my head. I knew she wanted me to do something based on her body language, but I was not sure what it was. She said the phrase again, pointed to me and said, "You repeat." In the past couple of weeks, I'd learned the meaning of that phrase. I realized that when teaching the class new words, the teacher would say a word, then say, "You repeat." And the whole class would first repeat, then spell the word. So she's done a good job of picking up her own little tricks, right? To figure out what was going on. Although I did not want to be ridiculed again, I repeated the phrase anyway. Mrs. Levi said, "Bravo," and started clapping. Some of the kids clapped as well. I lifted my head and started smiling shyly. Well, I'm going to count that as a win for Georgette. One of the girls pulled my chair closer to theirs and said, "Come join us," while motioning with her hand for me to come. I felt overjoyed as I walked to my chair and sat next to the girls. Yay! 1 point for Georgette. A few days later, I decided to make new friends. Feeling brave in gym class one afternoon, I decided to approach one of the girls while we were waiting for our group's turn to play volleyball. She was sitting by herself, so I felt safer approaching her than approaching the girls who were sitting in groups. I thought that if she rejected me, at least it would not be done in front of others. I was so nervous that my palms started to sweat and my breathing became a little faster. I walked over and sat down next to her on the bench. I pointed to myself and said, "My name is Georgette," then pointed to her and said one of the new phrases that I'd learned, "What is your name?" Imagine that, even the basics of introducing yourself that you didn't have words for. Imagine how that would be difficult. Georgette's awesome in my books. The girl looked at me, smiled, and said, "My name is Tessa." Just then, the gym teacher blew his whistle for our group to start our game. I was very happy that I had been brave enough to make a connection. It was not a leap, but it was another small step to making friends. I think that's a leap. After all she'd gone through just to say hello and ask to join a group, it was really brave of her to keep going. Chapter 5. Within the next few weeks, school got a little easier. I started to interact more with my classmates by pointing to an item in the classroom and saying the name in Haitian Creole. One of my classmates would then tell me the name in English. When I wanted to learn how to say "she" in English, I touched the shoulder of the girl who sat to my right, whose name was Leah. I pointed to the chair and said "she." She looked at me and said, "Chair." I repeated the word 3 times in a whisper in order to memorize it. I had realized early on that if I said words or phrases at least 3 times, I had a better chance of memorizing them. After a few days of pointing and learning, however, I could tell that my classmates and even the teachers were getting annoyed with the constant interrupting and pointing. During math, I saw the boy to my left, whose name was Alex, with a calculatrice in his hands, and I wanted to know the name in English. I reached over and waved at him to get his attention. When he turned towards me, I smiled at him and asked, "This calculatrice?" while pointing at it. Alex rolled his eyes, sighed loudly, and said in a very annoyed voice, "Calculator." Then he turned away from me, shaking his head. That was not the first time that someone had gotten annoyed with me when I asked for the name of an object. Feeling discouraged, I decided to stop asking for help. Oh, Georgette. I'm so sorry this is her experience, man. She was getting on a roll, though, learning new words and kind of making connections with friends, but now they're all getting tired of her asking for the translated words. I think they need a little dose of patience. After 3 months in school, things were progressing, but not as fast as either the teachers or I would have liked. I was still not comfortable expressing myself in English. I was still using body language and hand signals combined with some new sentences that I'd been learning in order to communicate. Some of the students did not like working with me. I overheard them say that they did not believe that I would be able to contribute to the assigned projects due to my heavy accent and unfamiliarity with the English language. Well, I think that's kind of a fair point. She's still learning the basics. During science, Mrs. Levi assigned us partners to work with on a project to construct a homemade lava lamp. My partner's name was Lizzie. The teacher gave us all that we needed, including written directions on how to make the lava lamps. I was excited to work on the project because I had always loved science. Back in my native country, I've always gotten high grades in my science classes. My partner, however, was not very excited. She groaned when the teacher told us that we would be working together. But I can barely understand her, she complained in a whiny voice. That frustrated me a lot because I had much to contribute. If I knew the language better, I would have been able to show her and the other students. What they did not realize was that I understood a lot more than I was able to express. Although we were able to complete the project with the help of Mrs. Levi, I was not happy with the way that Lizzie treated me. After the winter holiday break, I did not want to go back to school. I was tired of people being frustrated with me and calling me lazy. Although some of the kids would say hello and even tried having conversations with me, they got frustrated quickly when I had difficulties responding clearly enough in English. By February, it was I who was frustrated with them. No one at the school seemed to realize how difficult it was for me. Hearing words and not understanding their meaning is scary and frustrating. For a 10-year-old, it felt like I was on a bicycle going down a hill with a brick wall coming at me fast, and I had no brakes. That's a very clear picture of how uncomfortable and scary it must be. Again, something to remember when we have people in our class or people we come across, maybe from a different country and who only speak a different language, right? Chapter 6. 2 weeks into February, a boy from my country was transferred from a different class into my classroom. He had come to the United States the previous year. Although he was not fluent in English, he spoke and understood enough to translate for me. What a relief! The first phrase that I asked him to teach me was, "Mwen pa Paris, mwen ji pa comprend." It took a couple of minutes, but I got it. The next time a student called me lazy, I looked her in the eyes and said, with my heavy accent, "I am not lazy. I just don't understand." She rolled her eyes and walked away. It felt good that I was able to defend myself thanks to the new boy. His name was Arnold, and he was very helpful. It felt great to have someone who I could relate to, someone who I knew wouldn't laugh at my pronunciation and jumbled up sentences. His English was not so great either, but it was much better than mine. He was lucky to have had a Haitian classroom aide in his class the previous year, who turned out to be a major help to him. And I gotta say, something that Georgette should have had. During English language art one day, we were given 5 words and were asked to make 5 complete sentences using them. The words were expand, population, guardian, donate, and introduce. I knew what population meant, but the rest were new to me. I decided to start my first sentence with the word population. Alex had been moved from the desk to my left in order to make room for Arnold when he joined our class. Therefore, I was able to move closer to him to get help. I knew the sentence that I wanted to make with the word population. In my head, I created the sentence in Haitian Creole, then translated it in my broken English. I wrote down, United States is large population Haitian people. I showed it to Arnold, who then helped me to correct it. You are missing a couple of words to make it a complete sentence, he said patiently. In front of United States, you need the word the, he corrected. Also, you might want to replace the word is with has, he suggested, and continued until we completed the sentence. With gratitude, I made the corrections. My new sentence read, the United States has a large population of Haitian people. We continued on like this, with Arnold explaining what the words meant, me writing the sentences the best that I could, and Arnold helping me to correct them. He was a very patient friend. With Arnold's help, I was able to engage in short conversations with other kids and the teacher. By April, I was able to use the sentences that I was learning to make new friends. Hooray for Georgette! Chapter 7. During springtime every year, the school put on a spring dance for the 4th and 5th graders. I heard several of my classmates talking about it, and Arnold told me that he had attended the previous year and that it was fun. I had never attended a school dance before, but it sounded like fun. 2 weeks before the dance, I asked my parents if I could go. Reluctantly, they agreed, but only because Arnold's mom was chaperoning. The next day, I was very excited to tell my new friends in class that I was going to the dance. Tessa and I had gotten close in the past couple of months. When I saw her as I entered the school building, I excitedly told her about my news. Tessa, Tessa, I called out loudly. I go to spring dance. Really? She exclaimed, just as loudly, with a huge smile on her face. Yes, I answered, smiling back. We linked arms in the hallway as we walked to our class, making plans about what we were going to wear. Oh, I'm happy to hear. Tessa sounds like a friend for Georgette. Even though I was more comfortable speaking English with Arnold, I was still able to communicate with others in and outside the classroom. I did not allow my heavy accent or the fact that some of the kids still laughed at my mispronounced or misused words to stop me from talking, participating, or making new friends. Making my own small group of new friends was a huge plus for me. At lunchtime, I now sat with Arnold, Tessa, and a boy named Sam. I felt like I was part of the laughing, loud, and playful group of kids in the cafeteria. The feeling of belonging was in every smile and laugh. By the end of the school year, I felt like I had gone through a battle and won. Yes, she did. I was not yet fluent in English, but I was able to do well enough in the class to graduate and move on to the 6th grade. On graduation day, I felt like I was riding a bike on leveled ground on a sunny day with a cool breeze blowing and my eyes closed, knowing that I had made it through my first year, and it felt great. The end. Oh my goodness, little readers. I am so happy you guys joined me for the second part because I was so worried. The first part was really hard, that she was there, not understanding anything that was going on, doing her very best to connect with people, and just not getting anywhere. Thankfully, Arnold came to the rescue and was such a support and helped Georgette understand the words. That makes me feel so much better. I never want to see a little reader left out or feeling like she doesn't know what's going on. So I hope that through this book, you all learned a very important lesson about acceptance and coming alongside someone who may be different, who may not understand, but you can find ways to include them. Okay, another amazing book read in Ruthy's reading room. I'm going to encourage you again, check in the description below. There will be a link to where you can buy this book. And remember, the best place to read is wherever you are with a book, right? That's right. Okay, Ja. Okay, Ja. So if you enjoyed reading with us, please remember to subscribe, give us a thumbs up, and hit that notification bell so you can read along with us next time. Happy reading, little readers. Goodbye.
Ruthy's read it.